Welcome back into this week's edition of the Co-Lin Coaches Show. We're all about baseball this week, and joining me first is our head baseball coach, Adam Chamblee. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you all for having me.
And Coach, obviously a week where you went 1-3, but every game felt very competitive. Maybe minus the second game against East Central. That one looks like even the box score makes it sound like it got a little bit away from you. Felt maybe it was a little bit closer for most of that one, but your thoughts overall, you first look at the big split against East Central, a team where they were coming in number 3, number 2 in the conference. Of course, you'd already beaten number 1 in the conference and number 2 in the nation, and you finished a 6-game stretch 3-3. And I know talking with you, you were thinking, hey, if we finish this 2-4, or we grab a couple of wins throughout that thing, we're feeling great. But you finished at 3-3, exactly 500. Kind of blew expectations out of the water because you feel like you let a couple of those get away and easily could have been 5-1 in that stretch as well too. But your thoughts overall on getting a big split against East Central?
Yeah, I thought it was a good week for us, even though, you mentioned, I guess on paper going 1-3, which 2 of those being the non-conference games against Panola. But no, the win in game 1 against East Central was huge. Obviously them coming in second place in the conference, I think 3rd or 4th in the nation at that point. So really big win there. It's always really cool to win the first one too, because then going into the second one, hey, we at least got 1 win today. Let's try to go get 2, and that was our mindset. It was do not be satisfied with this first win. Let's go see if we can sweep these guys. It's very doable if you play good baseball. Unfortunately, weren't able to do that, but you kind of know that with a team like East Central or any of the teams in our league that are always tough. It's tough to sweep anybody, so to get 1 against them was a really big deal. And then moving into Panola, games that not as worried about the wins and losses side of thing, because they are non-conference, and it's more about, hey, let's get guys work in, let's keep some guys healthy, let's rest some guys, see what some guys can do, playing some guys in different positions. So we knew that we kind of had a bigger goal in mind for those games that was more a long-term, helping us long-term in our playoff hunt and our postseason hunt. Was not necessarily worried about the wins and losses of, hey, today and tomorrow in those games. So we knew that going in. We had a game plan. We stuck with it, and it is what it is. But it was a productive week for us. There's no doubt about that. So,
and then you go back to that game 1 against East Central. We'll call this one the Cohen-Weinhofer game. Cohen comes out and did what we got a little bit used to seeing him do, minus the last couple of starts that he'd had. He came out, longest outing of his career, 8 1/3, only gave up 1 earned run on 4 hits, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. You'd like to see those walks go down a little bit because he also gave up a hit by pitch, which basically means, free bases he was equal with his strikeouts, but still a very effective outing. He didn't let the walks hurt him. He scattered those hits across it. You scored 1 in the first. They tied it with 1 in the second. Then you scored 1 in the sixth. That's all you needed. Of course, that 1 in the sixth, I think a leadoff triple from Tucker Jones. He eventually comes around and scores on a sac bunt by Lucas Harrington. We talked about that play a good bit, and you kind of scratch your head because Lucas puts the bunt down, the pitcher fields it, and both of us thought we don't understand why he didn't throw it to home. He turns and throws it to first, but fortunately he threw it to first, and Tucker scored, and that's how you get that win because you come in and again you brought Cohen back out in the 9th. He was over 100 pitches, but, I know the thinking is see if he can get the complete game, see if he can get those 3 outs. If he gets 1 on, you go to your closer in Nash Sturdivant. That's what you did. He got a save, his 6th of the season, struck out the only 2 that he faced. Then East Central actually got the tying run on 3rd because of an error on a stolen base. But again, Nash did what Nash does. There was ice in his veins in that one. I don't think there was any doubt in your mind what he was going to be able to do in that moment.
Yeah, no, I fully, trusted him 100% in that moment, no doubt. Which, you talk about Cohen's line, to start the game, the first, 3 or 4 innings, he wasn't super sharp. Kind of looked like, hey, this could maybe be a shorter outing for him. And but then he was able to figure something out. He was able to lock in and kind of get past what he had done, and he continued to compete. And just really, really proud of him to see him just make a mid-game adjustment. I think that was a big deal for him. There's a lot of guys that's really hard for them to do. It's like if things aren't going well, is that going to be the story of your day or your outing or your game? But he was able to lock in and be like, hey, no, I'm I'm going to change what I've done in these last few innings. And then once he did that, he was a completely different person the rest of the game, whether that the last 5-6 innings, whatever it was. But no, he 100% went out there and somewhat, won the game for us. He kept it where it was, and 2 runs was all we needed, like you said. So it was an awesome performance by him.
And I got to think, as a coach, it's got to be pleasing to see that some of these freshmen that you're having to rely more on than what you thought you were going to have to at the start of the year. You knew you were going to be freshman heavy pitching wise, but some of these guys that we've talked about throughout the year didn't think you were going to have to rely on them as much, and now things are really starting to click for them. And I think as a coach, that's got to be something that you're very proud of. Again, Co-Lin, we've talked about Cameron Patterson the last few weeks. Things are really starting to click for him, and he's been really pitching well. Jennings has done what Jennings has done all year, minus the game we're about to talk about. But again, guys that maybe you were going to be using for a spot start here and there, or they were going to be your 3-4 guys. They turn into your 1-2 guys, those kind of things. I think as a coach, that's got to be very pleasing to see, is that those freshmen are really starting to figure it out.
Yeah, it is. And, that's the thing. Injuries happen and all of that, but at some point somebody does have to step up, and we've had some guys do that, so that's been really cool to see. And the other thing at this point, where we are in the season, it's, it's late April, mm-hmm. Like, you're really not a freshman anymore.
Right.
Is kind of how we tried. Like, if you're still acting like a freshman, then you haven't really learned anything yet, because, it's the freshman year is almost over, so those guys have to – and they are, the experience should start to be there. The jitters kind of go away, and you just kind of settle in and do your thing. So I think they've been able to do that. So it's, we have had to rely on a lot of those guys. You don't know going into a season. You don't know who's going to be. What you think guys can do, mm-hmm. but you don't really know what. And some guys just have a bad year. Some guys have a good year. You get some surprises, good or bad, some injuries, and so everybody's got to bring it every single day to see what they can bring for the team.
And then you look at Game 2 in the doubleheader against East Central, and like I said, this one it kind of got away from you a little bit early. They scored 2 in the first, 1 in the fourth, 2 in the fifth. It's 4-0 going into the bottom of the fifth. You score 1, grab a little bit of momentum, but unfortunately they scored 4 in the sixth and then shut y'all out in the sixth and the seventh. That's how you get to 9-1. Unfortunately, I did say it was 5-0, and it was. My bad. When we scored, that one was 5-1. So, but. Again, this game, Jennings, we talked about just a second ago, 3 1/3 might be one of his shortest outings of the year. Outside of I think last week he only pitched 3 in a game, but 5 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Just not the lines we're used to seeing from Jennings. Hopefully, we get him back to normal after a little bit of rest this past weekend. I don't think he touched a baseball at all for y'all for about 3 or 4 days. Lucas Harrington pitched an inning in the third, gave up 2 unearned runs on 2 hits, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. Cameron Patterson came out 2/3 of an inning, 2 runs, both earned on 2 walks. Jacob Buffalo didn't record an out in his appearance, gave up 2 runs, both earned on 2 walks. I think the best arm out of the pen for you was Judson Griffin, who, again, we've talked about a lot here. You take away a third of an inning against Pearl River. He's had some very solid appearances here lately for you. An inning and 2/3 scoreless, only gave up 1 hit, 2 strikeouts. So again, Judson came in, did the job that you asked him to do, and was very good for you.
Yeah, looking at all those, I think, Jennings may not have had his best stuff, and we kind of felt like you could kind of tell that his stuff was not as good as normal. And it seemed like their hitters were seeing it a little bit. That was kind of the decision to go to somebody a little earlier. The thing is, all the relief arms, there were too many free passes mixed in there, which it's kind of been an ongoing issue a little bit, I guess. We've addressed it, talked about it. It's one of those things that, it's as a pitcher you have to make them earn it.
Mm-hmm.
At least for the most part. Hey, it's not as easy as it. On the outside, it's easy to say, yeah, just throw strikes. Well, they're trying. Mm-hmm. I promise you they're trying. So it's not always as easy as it sounds or looks, but you do have to get the job done, and we just gave them too many free passes, and which, like you said, Judd's inning and 2/3 or whatever it was really good. You just got to have more of those performances. Like that's it. It boils down to you have to have more guys to go out there and make them earn what they're getting to keep them in it, but the 5 or 6 runs, it was 5-1 in a 7-inning ball game against a good team. Like 5-1 may have been mm-hmm. enough to, because they're gonna have enough arms, bullpen arms, to kind of hold you down in a shorter game. So the extra 4 runs or whatever it was, I don't know that they lost us the game. They just made the score look worse, like you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, I thought they came out and swung the bat too. So, I mean, it was what it was. Sometimes you just get beat. So
and then you turn to this past weekend or Thursday, Friday, you played Panola in 2 9-inning games. A group that, when we were watching the BP, we were thinking that this could be a long day. But as you mentioned it, you played a lot of guys who haven't gotten a lot of playing time, got to see some things from those guys. I think you had, in your terms, you'd say it was a successful weekend. Even though you didn't get a couple of wins, you were able to evaluate some guys who, again, haven't gotten a lot of playing time, got to play in some different positions. You had Gavin Bledsoe at catching a game in this one. He caught both games caught a little bit in game 2, caught pretty much all of game 1. Sam Cook got to play first base. Lucas got to play some third base as well, too. You got some time for Owen Spooner and Aiden Filial, who haven't gotten much playing time. And you got some guys in the outfield who also haven't played in some of those positions as well, too. Your thoughts overall on this doubleheader? Again, didn't get the wins, but still felt like it was a successful weekend because of being able to evaluate that talent.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it was, to be able to – couldn't have been a better time to move some things that we had already kind of maybe been thinking about as a coaching staff, and hey, how can we use this guy? Or I mean, that's kind of part of it, as you continue to go, and if you want to make a longer run in the postseason, you have to be open-minded to changing some things or maybe moving some guys around, and there wasn't a better time for us to try to do that in a live setting than this. Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, we weren't worried about, yes, I mean, the scoreboard is still on, and these games do go on our win-loss record. Obviously, we want to win them, but it wasn't that wasn't at the forefront of our minds. It was more, let's see what this guy can do. And so for that situation, it was perfect. Right.
And I think as a coach, you've also got to like the fact that, hey, we tried some different things, and we were competitive in both games. You look at game 1, they scored 1 in the first, 2 in the 5th, 4 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th. You scored 1 in the 5th, 1 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th. The biggest difference was 3 errors led to 4 unearned runs. If you don't give up 4 unearned runs, it's a 4-4 ball game, and hey, maybe you have a chance to win it in the 9th, or maybe you play into extras. You had 5 hits in this one, 2 from Sam Cook, 1 from Dylan Wesson, Bradley Hanlon, and Reese Thomas. And, we talk about the pitching. You and I have talked about it at length. Tanner Blackwell, this is probably the best outing I will say it is the best outing he's had all season. Pitched 4 innings, gave up an unearned run on 2 hits, 8 strikeouts, and I think at one point he struck out 5 in a row, including striking out the side in one inning, came out, struck out another one, and maybe it was 5 out of 6 or something like, but gave up a single and then struck out again. Just a really masterful performance on the mound from a kid who, I think you've expected that out of him. He just hasn't been able to get that success, and you saw when he was able to build upon the success from inning to inning how effective he can be.
Yeah. And was a situation for him too that he was able to go out there and kind of figure something out with some of his pitches and kind of experiment again in a setting that it's not all about, well, if we don't execute this, then that could be the game. Right. You're playing a little more carefree, which can be dangerous. Can be, if another team is doing that can be a dangerous team. Mm-hmm. So he was able to do that and figure some things out. So it was awesome. I thought he obviously mixed pitches well, and just went out there and pitched against a good offense too. I mean, you're talking about 8 strikeouts against a team that is fairly talented. So, was really happy to see that, and hopefully he can continue to build on it.
And, shout out to Lane Robertson. I thought he had a very strong outing, one of his best, if not his best. 3 innings, gave up 2 unearned runs on a hit, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Carter Leggett pitched an inning, gave up 4 runs, all earned on 3 hits and a walk. Darren Robbins came out, gave you an inning, gave up an unearned run on 2 strikeouts. There was an error in that inning that allowed that run to score as well, too. So, again, the 3 errors cost you 4 runs, and even with Carter Leggett giving up a 4 spot when he did, that game still feels very competitive despite those errors. So, again, as a coach, I think you got to say, hey, we tried something different, and it really worked out for us. Yes, we had some errors, but overall it was very successful. Then you turn your attention to the next day. This is a game that you lost 8-7, had the tying run at third, had the winning run at second, and in the bottom of the ninth, and unfortunately a strikeout into the game. You and I talked about it. Maybe in those scenarios you've got a different lineup set up. Maybe you're doing things a little bit different. But again, you've got to like the way the guys fought all throughout that game. It was very back and forth. You look at it, you scored 1 in the first, 2 in the third. They tied it with 3 in the fifth. You took the lead in the fifth with a run. They scored 3 in the seventh, 2 in the ninth, and that's what made it, I believe, 8-4 at that point. You scored 3 in the ninth, and again, that strikeout into the game. But I think, again, as a coach, trying a different lineup, throwing some different things out there, a very competitive game. Overall, it's a successful outing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both games, like you mentioned already, just chances to win both of them with some movement around, so it was a win-win for us.
And you look at this one, you had 11 hits, 3 from Lucas Harrington, 2 each from Sam Cook and Aiden Filial. Aiden Filial, not one that we've talked a lot about. He's run for you primarily. Got a couple of hits in this one. Had really 2 solid base hits for you in this one. A hit each from Gavin Bledsoe, Bradley Hanlon, Caleb Brooks, Reese Thomas. So you had 11 hits in this one. That's double what you had the game before. And for the most part, I think you'd say your pitchers had some pretty good outings. Cameron Patterson came out 3 innings of scoreless, hitless ball, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. Nash Sturdivant, 2 innings. He gave up 3 runs. All of those were unearned because of an error in an inning. 3 hits, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. Judson Griffin came in, 2 innings, gave up 3 runs, all earned, 3 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. If I'm not mistaken, I think all 3 of those runs came in his second inning. Got a little roughed up there in that one. D. Morgan came out, 2 hits, gave up 2 runs. Both of those earned on 2 walks. And then Jacob Buffalo came out, got you those last 2/3, got 2 strikeouts, struck out the last 2 guys he faced. But I think you would say overall, not a terrible day on the mound. Could have been a little bit better. Had some mistake pitches that they took advantage of. But I think you would say overall a solid day for your pitching staff.
Yeah, I think so. Thought they competed well for sure.
And then you turn your attention to this upcoming week. You've only got 6 left. It's hard to believe we're here basically at the end of the year. End of the season will be done next Tuesday, and then you'll turn your attention to postseason play. Not 100% assured for the Wolves, but we like our odds going into these last 6. Turn your attention to some games. You got Hines on the road. Those will be your last ones on the road this year. That's a weird feeling to say that you're about to play your last road conference games, and then you'll have 2 at home. But we'll focus on the Hines games first. Games that we can tell people have been moved from Wednesday at 3-6 to Thursday at 3-6. But what are you expecting out of the Eagles when you go over there? I know that's a team that you look at the standings, they're not having the year they have. They're probably mathematically eliminated, but that makes them a dangerous team because they can spoil your season, give you everything, put a lot of pressure on you. So that makes them a very dangerous team going into this one.
Yeah, and they've had a tough year. Obviously, I think they've dealt with some injuries, and a lot of teams in our conference are very similar, and with the right or wrong injuries, a lot of people's seasons can be almost flipped upside down. So there's no question that they are a lot more talented than what their record is going to say. They've played some really, really competitive games and had a chance to walk away with a big time sweep or 2. So it's been, I guess, a little unfortunate. And as a baseball coach, we can all be. We all know that, hey, we've all kind of been there, and years can be up and down because it's a tough game. But, no, they're going to be talented. I expect them to still compete. I know they will. So it's not going to be easy, like none of them are. I say that all the time. But expect them to compete, and hopefully we play really well and pick up 2 wins. Obviously, that's the goal. We need to play really well on the way out and handle our business and finish as high as we possibly can, and then see kind of what happens with playoffs, and like you mentioned, I guess we're not for sure in the playoffs, but hopefully we can handle enough business to where that's hopefully not a question for us.
And then you turn your attention to Saturday. You'll host Delta. It'll also be sophomore day for the Wolves. Going to honor 8 sophomores. Going to say bye to a class that's a little bit smaller than the class that you had last year, but a class that has really done well. They've really kind of helped set that standard and shown what Wolves baseball is going to be, and they've competed their tails off every time they've gone out there. But what do you know about the Trojans about that one, and looking forward to that special day to honor those guys?
Sophomore day is always it's bittersweet or, whatever the case may be. But, no, like you mentioned, an awesome group of guys that have put a lot of effort into our program, so it's going to be awesome to honor them, But as far as Mississippi Delta, another team that is further down in the standings, but once again, a team that can also go out there and beat you. I mean, they've already shown that. You know, they've got some good wins. A team that we played earlier in the year, but that was in February. You know, I'm sure they have learned a lot about their team, just as we have, and I expect them to probably play a little better than they did the last time we played them. So, once again, you got to show up and you got to play really hard and you got to play really good, or anything can happen. You know, that's kind of been the reoccurring story throughout the season, really for us as a team, but also in our conference as a whole. You've seen a lot of crazy things happen. So, you know, once again, you got to play good baseball. You can't take a day off. You can't have a bad day, unfortunately, because it's 2 games in a day all the time, and you're not just losing 1 game. You could potentially lose 2 games. So it's not necessarily fair because you can't have a bad day, you know, and that's, we're human. Guys are going to have bad days, but just hope that hopefully they're bad days of practice and not bad game days. I guess that's what you hope for.
Right. Well, we certainly look forward to how the Wolves are going to finish the season. Hope we finish it strong and get ready for that playoff push. A lot of good things happening for Wolves baseball. Again, get a huge split against East Central. Win game 1 2-1. Dropped game 2 9-1, and then dropped a pair against Panola. Very competitive games, 8-4, 8-7. And now they're turning their attention last road games at Hines on Thursday at 3 and 6, and they'll finish up with their first of 2 home doubleheaders against Mississippi Delta on April 26th. I almost said August. We're not in August yet. April 26th, 2 and 5. Again, we'll give you all the stream information as we have it available. It's sophomore day on Saturday for the Wolves, so if you can come out to the park and celebrate these sophomores and cheer on the team, we look forward to having you there. But if not, we'll have it on stream for you as well, too.